Kyle Kazmarek from KDMG to introduce our next panel.
Hello, everybody.
To start off with, I just want to say thank you to OTT.X, the staff board, for giving us this great opportunity to sponsor this next panel, which I'm personally excited about. And I happen to know a couple people in this panel that are rock stars that I've known for a long time, so it's great to see them do what they do best. So we'll get right into it. Berkin, Ecevit, Sales and Business Development Director, SPI International. Tomas, Gennari, CEO, BBB Media. This guy I don't know at all. Jason Peterson, Chairman and CEO, GoDigital Media Group. Hey, buddy. Matthew Singerman, President, KFA Consulting. And our amazing moderator here for this lowly panel, Michele Edelman, Head of Growth, Premier Digital Services.
All right, so,
Testing.
So, thanks everyone for showing up during this, the big heat wave. Now we're calling it, Hello, hello? Oh, God, now I can hear myself. So thanks to everyone for showing up during the big heat wave. We're gonna brand it. And for this panel that we have here today, so it's a very, very broad topic. It's called growing your footprint, which can mean many different things, your footprint. But it was interesting to hear Eric talk about Sony. And the first thing they brought to market was a rice cooker. So, thinking about how they grew their footprint was phenomenal. But what I want to do first is just have everyone introduce themselves. I'm going to start directly to my left. And tell us a little bit about yourself and about your company, and then we're going to go into the core of the presentation.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Berkin Ecevit. I do business development for SPI International. We are a 40-year-old media company. We have more than 40 linear premium channels going worldwide, 2 SVOD products, fast channels, and we've just been partnered up with the French media giant Canal Plus now. So, yeah, happy to be here.
Okay, Tom Gennari. I am the CEO at BB Media. We do data science for media and entertainment. One of the biggest things we have started building 5 years ago is monitoring every streaming service in the world, their prices, plans in real time, every content they have available, and do intelligence on top of that, which is mostly, one of our biggest growing opportunities nowadays.
Jason Peterson. I run GoDigital. We're a holding company in the intellectual property rights management business. We own assets across music, video, which we call networks, and consumer products brands that we call commerce.
Matt Singerman, KFA Consulting. I help companies 360 strategy on their OTT channels and figuring out programming and technical partners, and probably a huge emphasis on helping them get their distribution deals and distribution partners in place.
Great, thanks so much, appreciate that. Matt, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you.
So, only because, you run a consulting company, and here we are talking about growth. I'm the head of growth. I know what I need to do in order to grow our business. Tell me what it takes. Like, what do you need to do, and what is considered significant, successful growth for you?
Yeah, I think the marker for every company is different, and I think it's not about, my success. It's about who I'm working with, their success. And I think, look, I always say it's to get the distribution in the OTT world, it's kind of about 3 things. It's about your content, my contacts, and our strategy. And I think that's key. When you go out and get distribution, you need to be prepared. Like, I've worked on the other side of it too for distro TV a little bit and help them put channels on. I see a lot of channels come in unprepared with no deck, no programming plan, no marketing plan, not thinking about what does the platform need. It's not all about, I know we're in Hollywood, it's about all about us, but it's not. It's about how can you help that platform with your channel. And I think, and defining the white space. How, look, there's hundreds of channels out there now. The competition is fierce. So, you know, when I take on a new client, I say, what is going to set us apart that's going to make a platform want us versus everybody else? And I think these are all, there's not enough time, I think, in the prep of the channel a lot of times and getting it out there. Or if you've been out there, how do you switch it around so you get on? And then it's, you know, it's the you asked about success, and I'll wrap up with that part, is success is how you define it. Is it you want to start with the smaller ones and build your up way to the bigger? You don't care about the smaller platforms and you want to get on the bigger? And I think there's a ton of different benchmarks, but you just need to be ready to go and be very prepared and get that to happen.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Jason, you've been doing a lot. I kind of follow you, watch you. You diversified your company in so many ways. Talk to us about, you know, kind of your footprint. It was small when it started, now it's so much bigger, and you've really branched out into many, many different areas. Why don't you tell the group about what you've been doing?
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. So we are focused on the confluence of content, community, and commerce. If you think about it, content drives community, drives commerce. And so, you know, in the context of growing your footprint, as content owners today, right, the paradigm shifted. We're largely in a D2C environment. You know, 20, 30 years ago, it was a wholesale business. You didn't necessarily know your customers particularly well. And so today, we have a tremendous focus on customer data, right? We're building out a customer data platform ecosystem where we're building, hopefully, actionable customer profiles that are enriched, right? We know who these people are, where they live, what their purchasing behavior is, what content they engage with on our platforms. We started out originally in the music business. I was a movie producer for 7 years, and then we got into the music business. And when Netflix launched streaming in 2008, we were early in the door there and kind of got back in the video space. And what we've learned here from the evolution to FAST and ad-supported generally is that 95% of our revenue on our ad-supported channels comes from direct sales. And the way that we're getting premium CPMs, selling directly, is knowing our audience really, really well. We can deliver an audience and a net present customer lifetime value to our advertisers that is much, much greater than their cost to acquire that customer. So that's a big focus of ours.
Tom, tell us about what you're doing to grow your footprint.
Okay, so, you know, I wanted to do like an analogy between what we're doing to grow our footprint, because we are monitoring, we do, you know, research, so we do monitor every streaming service in the world, and we have the data available, you know, to India, Australia, and the players out there. And one of the things that we do keep track of is, you know, how those streaming services are in fact growing their footprint. You know, how Netflix became available worldwide, and how, you know, HBO Max announced the same thing a couple of months ago. I think it was MIP TV, saying like, we're going to launch this in 190 countries. Then, you know, the entire like Discovery Plus merger thing is going to happen. So no one knows for real how that's going to be. But we try to figure out how those like big streaming services are growing their footprint, because we have a similar situation, because we have the data. So you say you have the title availability, you have the IPs, you have the rights to launch your service globally, but does that necessarily mean growing your footprint, you know? Many times we get asked by our clients, like, who are the biggest subscription VOD libraries throughout the world? And even like if you take just one country and you do a ranker of the biggest libraries, you find ADOS Now to be one of the biggest ones on every single market. And who has heard of them? I mean, I don't know how many of you here know about ADOS Now. There's this Indian streaming service. They have a huge library, but, you know, just a few subscribers. So being available does not necessarily mean, you know, growing and building a user base. So we started looking at, how Netflix has done it, how Disney Plus is doing it, how HBO Max is doing it, and trying to crack that way of how they're growing their footprint, which is not like let's do all, the entire world all at once, but instead, no, let's just take it one region, one country at a time. Start charging. In fact, one of the things we figured out is whenever one of these bigger streaming services starts charging in local currencies, because we keep monitoring that in real time, and whenever they start charging in local currencies, then that is when the shift starts to happen, and it is like, yeah, now we're focusing on this market. And the very next thing you see is they start like announcing local originals, and they establish an office, they have a company, they start paying taxes, and that is all part of the same evolution. So when we look at our growth, what we think is, okay, we have the data set of every streaming service in the world, we are available, but are we growing? I mean, do we have clients in Southeast Asia? Well, we have a couple, we could have a lot more, but we need to establish a closer presence. We need someone there on the ground, and there is no such thing as virtuality when establishing, business connections. So you need someone there. We need to become experts. At the end of the day, we do research, we do consultancy, so we need to become experts in each one of those regions and markets. If not, we're just as good as it is now with a library of Indian titles in many countries where, people may not be interested in that type of content. Right. So growth for us is not being just available, but actually becoming experts in local mindset so that we can establish a good relationship with our clients in each one of those regions.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, you're up.
Okay, well.
Last but not least.
Okay, what are we doing? Well, I'm here, aren't I? So
yeah,
that's one of the things. Yeah, because you learn a lot in these conferences. Yeah. So especially because I'm taking.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's all right.
Just
because
share what you're doing. What is when you look at your company and on a day-to-day basis and sit down in the morning?
The reason why I'm here is we're mostly a European-based company.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
good.
so we have footprint all over Europe. US is a new market for us. I moved here 3 years ago, and we talk about Netflix, we talk about Disney. We had our SVOD product before them.
Oh,
so
nice.
why I'm saying that is technology really helps you grow your footprint. When I moved here 3 years ago, FAST was just starting. I bought my first Samsung TV. The channels were just cat channels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so today all of this room has FAST channels. So you have to be on the forefront of what you're doing, of the technology, and follow it with everything. So yeah, that's basically, and maybe one key thing. We're a smaller company.
Yeah.
We used to be a smaller company, and buddying up with larger platforms, telecoms, cable operators, it always helped us. Because we're
partnerships, you're saying.
Exactly, partnerships, and because we're smaller, we're nimble. We're always there when they need something. So, and we find a way to make it happen.
Got it. So I swear this wasn't canned. They gave 4 separate answers here, which were really impactful, and I appreciate that. It wasn't like snowball effect, one followed the other. You all have 4 different takes on what you need to do, which is the kind of the diversity of your companies, which is why this group is so interesting. So I had a little homework from my boss about market conditions. So I'm going to ask you guys to help me with my homework here. And let's talk a little bit about media being, technically they say media is recession proof, but the media industry, is it recession proof is the question. Lot of things happening right now. We're seeing a lot of consolidation. Companies that, were 2 are now 1. We're seeing that people, especially on the servicing side, they're taking things in-house. Vendors are kind of, yeah, we'll use you, but we want to do everything on our own. I want to talk about that. I want to hear your thoughts so that I can take these notes and bring them back. Just do my homework for me a little note. What do you think, Matt, just on what's happening? Are we heading into a recession? Are we recession proof? Will people will continue to watch, we know that, but behind the scenes, which is a lot of what we do, which is the business of media, what do you think is going to happen?
Look, not being an economist, and the Federal Reserve hasn't asked me if it's coming or not, but I think what you need to
What do you mean they haven't asked?
Yes, they should. They
should.
should. Thank you, Jason. But I think it's about making your own business recession-proof, right? Like, you can't worry about what is going on with everybody else and what will happen to their business. You need to make yourself integral to whether you deal directly with the consumer, or whether you're a B2B or B2C or B to whatever. Figure out how you're going to make it. I mean, I always think it's ironic when COVID hit and businesses are hurt. My business took off more than ever before because streaming became big and people wanted it. So, but I changed. I wasn't just in this OTT business. I had other businesses, but this was the business that really took off. So, because I do a lot of creative consulting and PR consulting, but during the pandemic, it was streaming. So I think it's like some of the guys were talking about yesterday. You need to change your business as things happen, and I think that's what I did. And I think, yeah, a recession might be coming. You can never, what I would say, you can't control the outside factors. You have to control the inside factors of your business and where you're going. And if you do that and you do it right and you're smart, then you'll be recession-proof and you'll figure it out.
Jason, what do you think?
So playing off that, I think there are standard market maturity models that we can look to, right? A lot of things are cyclical. As businesses mature, and first off, everything has a life cycle. Whether it's a industry, a format, a business, a product, whatever, has a life cycle. And as an industry matures, it's very normal to see consolidation. I mean, we are in an industry now that has infinite shelf space, right? And no geographic buying density requirements. So because of that, it's actually going to trend towards a monopoly in a lot of respects. And we started our company as a service business 17 years ago. And you know me from that business. And we pivoted 5-6 years ago into IP ownership because that's the only way you can't be disintermediated. But here's the catch, speaking to your Indian example. In all of the data that we've looked at across music, video, consumer products, it's a hits business. I know the music numbers off the top of my head. 3% of the content is 97% of the engagement and the revenue. In our industry, there are other techniques, right? If you have locomotive content that you can bundle to pull the train, you can put a lot of content in behind that, especially in a licensing context. But it's a hits business. If you don't have hits, it's going to be a tough time as the industry matures. So I would highly recommend everybody in here think about what is culturally significant content.
Tom?
I think that talking about recession is very US-centric, maybe. When we monitor other regions of the world, there is so much to be done still. Now, many, like the biggest streaming wars participants come in with a formula, a set of plans and a library, and they try to establish that with the same formula in every single market, and then they fail, well, basically because, each one of those markets has different, like pay TV penetrations, internet penetration, broadband, mobile penetrations. So you need to adapt that in order to continue to grow. Because the same formula that works in the US will most definitely not work everywhere in the world. That's for sure. And when we see every streaming service being launched, new services, streaming platforms being launched month after month, just yesterday, we were looking at the map of new services launched just in August, and it was like a list of 20 different streaming services were launched globally. Some of them SVODs, some of them AVODs, a variety of streaming services. And when you see them and what they're about and their angle to, their strategies, it's like, what the heck are these guys thinking? They're not going to, make it with these libraries. This is not going to happen, charging like $4 a month when they have these juggernauts with, for $6 or $10 a month with ad-supported SVOD and a huge library. But still, it's like, they're trying to make it happen. They have a niche set of contents that they're, going for. They might have like a couple of originals, and still, it's like, is there room for all of them? It's like, I don't know. I will not like put my money in betting on any of those. I mean, it's a gamble. But then you see many of these streaming services actually making it happen when it comes to AVOD with smaller libraries, the costs for having a streaming service continue to drop. As everything else, when it comes to like sustain a streaming service, ad dollars start to funnel into those AVODs, which is happening in the US. Then now we're very specialized in Latin America, and AVOD in Latin America continues to be a struggle, to generate the revenue, but it will happen eventually. So I think we're transitioning, and that, I would prefer using the word, transitioning instead of recession, because a lot of things need to happen in order to make an AVOD profitable in every region in the world, which we're seeing it happen in the US with FAST and everything, but everywhere else, it's a bit more difficult. And media agencies have no idea how to make that happen. Advertisers do not understand it. There is no normalized metric of audience, for all of those AVODs. And, Nielsen might make it happen in the US, Barb in the UK, but everywhere else in the world, there will probably not be a standard for ratings, cross-platform, cross-business model. So it's going to be difficult. So I think, there might be a recession in a way that households are not able to subscribe to every streaming service out there. So you might see, a bit of a transition between, so that is happening, but the market will continue to evolve. And at the end of the day, it's like, I do think there is space for all of these new streaming services. I do think that there is space for all of them. But we're transitioning, and especially when thinking, sorry for rambling about, but when it comes to broadcast channels and how they're struggling to find their place in the streaming world, it's like that still needs to happen. In the US, they kind of figured it out. The rest of the world is still like no man's land, and they're struggling to make it happen. And I think they will be able to make it happen with a combination of SVODs, AVODs, bundling in between them. As Berkin was saying, like, you need to bundle with telecommunication companies in order to succeed. And once we're done with all of that transition, I think that the recession will not be a word that we will be using.
Can I add just a little color there? You inspired a thought.
Go ahead.
If you're in the advertising business, and if we do go into an economic recession or further into an economic recession, you will see more emphasis on performance marketing and less emphasis on top of funnel brand marketing. So consider that in your advertiser mix.
Interesting. You just answered my question. You just did my homework for me. I appreciate that. But so it sounds to me like you agree with Jason that, like, put it out there, but get access to the customer. Are you saying yes?
Yeah, get access to the customer. Now you have to bundle with other companies in order to gain the biggest user base you can as fast as possible. Of course, you will have to compromise quite a bit of your revenue if you do that. And again, I mean, you have to suck it up, and if you have a good financial situation, just wait until everyone is there. But if you wait until the market has transitioned and only then you launch, then you're good as dead. I think, so you have to do things today and suck it up until, all the market is ready for what you're offering.
Great, I appreciate that. I am going to use what you said. Sean, where are you? Let's take those notes down. Okay, good. Recession, transition, what do you think?
I don't know if I knew, right? But to be recession-proof, I think you have to hedge your bets, right? You have to have different eggs in different baskets, and that's basically what we're doing with linear, digital, fast. So plus worldwide globalization. If you're just in the US and recession hits, that's another thing. But if it's a small or like 10% of your business, then yes, it's a hit, but it's not crazy. It's not going to sink you. Yeah. So I think hedging your bets is critical. Yeah.
So everyone's really talking about the breadth of what's happening. I mean, I feel like I go on vacation for a week, I come back, there's 20 new streaming services that I know. Seriously, that's what's happening. And I had a Roku. I was one of the first Roku users, and now it's like I have no idea what's on there. And I fancied myself like a super user, and now I'm just watching 3 channels or 3 apps or whatnot. So let's talk about the overload and the breadth of what is out there, and what do you think? And more important, what's next for that? Like, where do we just continue to grow it until it just can't go any further, or is there a way to simplify the complicated, let's say. Matt, yeah?
I mean, what's interesting is there's a breadth, but somehow every Friday night it takes my wife and I still 2 hours to figure out what to watch and what's good.
Exactly,
But,
yeah.
you know, but look, I always think there's room for more. I think when people say, that's it, it's going to stop growing, like, it's never stopped growing. It keeps growing. I mean, there's retrenchment and companies join each other and add to libraries, but I think if you have a good service, whether it's a streaming channel or a VOD service, or whether you're some business catering to those services, like there's always opportunity. So, and I think the audience is always, look, I think I'm a little unique in the group. I come from the production side of things. I don't come from the business or business development. So I always look at things from a production programming eye, and I always appreciate a good idea in the production and programming world. So I think even though there's saturation, someone always comes up with some channel or idea. I mean, I represented Black News Channel. I was like, how has there not been a Black News Channel in the marketplace till 3 years ago? I mean, I was kind of floored by that. So I think, look, there's a lot of creative minds in this room, and there's always an idea to come up with and always a way to break through the saturation. I mean, marketing tactics and PR tactics, and as the Grace note was talking about, metadata tactics are all important, but it starts with a great idea for a channel and executing on it.
Jason, are we going to just continue just going out exponentially, or is there going to be some sort of magic, magic washer that puts everything together?
Well, we can look at the music industry, I think, as a precursor a little bit to what happens here. They have 60,000 albums a week released now. It's impossible for anybody to even comprehend that, right? It's almost 1 million tracks a week. So, I think that entertainment time and money as consumers is not going to change very fast. And we may actually acquire more entertainment time. It's something we saw with COVID a little bit, through higher degrees of automation in the workforce. We may find ourselves having shorter work weeks and such, which will have an accretive effect to our industry. But if you assume that entertainment time and money is not going to change rapidly, but you've had an exponential increase in content availability, then discovery and personalization has been the cutting edge for quite some time, and I think will continue to be. I love the idea that was talked about, sort of a natural language processing relationship with your device, where you can have an interactive conversation about what you feel like watching, right? I worked with a guy last year at Stanford who spent the last 20 some odd years MRIing the human brain, and what did he figure out? He's a neuroscientist. We make decisions based on how we feel. Even motor control first originates in the emotional part of the brain. So being able to have a natural language relationship with a device or a service where you can talk about how you feel, right? What you want to watch, how you want to feel when you watch it, I think is a powerful place to go, and I really like that concept. But yeah, it's definitely about metadata and cutting through the white noise. Also, back to content driving, community driving commerce, really understanding your customer, right? And being able to reach those customers in a cost-effective way. I mean, a lot of services are using content as the tip of the spear. It's the vanguard for the total lifetime value of the customer relationship. What is the lifetime value of an Apple customer? $20,000? They're buying laptops and phones and AirPods. What's the lifetime value of an Amazon customer, right? So the interesting thing is that we as a content industry don't realize that. But if you're a conglomerate that's tying together content, community, and commerce, you've got much, much higher lifetime values. And so you can even use content as a loss leader.
Tom?
I
know that you have, I can feel you having an opinion on this one.
Yeah. So, it's like personal opinion first, and then what we see on the data that we gather. But, it's like you get a feeling when you see your inbox, and it's like, okay, so I used to have a lot of emails, now I have way more. And it's like, I cannot have another newsletter. There's no time for another newsletter. And yet, I know that 1 year from now, I will have like way more newsletters in my inbox than, the year before. Same thing with apps. I mean, how many apps? Now I have too many apps in my phone, and so I continue to add stupid things to it, and it's never enough. It's never going to stop. It's is never going to be a blockade of how many apps are going to be out there, and it will just continue to add more things. Is there going to be a someone centralizing those apps, as we talk about in the streaming landscape? Is someone going to aggregate all of those subscriptions? I feel like that is not going to happen. So is there an overload? Now thinking about the data, is there an overload on the amount of streaming services and the amount of titles that people have access to on demand? And
No.
there's never enough, and people continue to add more AVODs and free VODs and rentals maybe. And how many streaming services people are using nowadays? This is actual surveys that we do. It varies hugely depending on the market. So you might know data from the US that they're talking about like 5 subscription services per household, plus other business models can add up to like 9 streaming services per household, things like that. Well, in Latin America, those numbers, which I know by heart, those numbers are maybe like 3 streaming services per household, while they still like share the passwords and the users quite a bit, so you have to take that into account as well. And then you have piracy, huge issue in many markets in the world. You have piracy in there as well as part of the mix, on how people consume content. So it's a lot to consider. If you then think how many titles each one of those streaming services have, which in average like 4,000, 5,000 titles per streaming service. In piracy is way more because they have access to everything. They're just not paying for it. So when you take all of that into consideration, of course, that content discovery and the presentation by Grace note just before, of course, it makes a lot of sense for content discovery and someone to aggregate all of that. Now, that is just part of it, because content aggregation, content discovery apps like TV Time, who we work with, and Screen Hits, a couple of others. So those content discovery apps just like normalize and put every streaming service in the same level. And that is not interesting for a streaming service. I do not want to be just at the same level than everyone else. I want my titles to stand out. So thinking of that, we started monitoring how each streaming service tries to keep their users engaged with their content. So looking at going back to the newsletters, how many emails do people receive from Netflix and from HBO Max? Do you have any idea how many emails they're sending per week? You can turn those emails off if you wanted to. But Netflix is sending something like 3 to 4 emails a week if you allow them to. And then in there you have, if you have kids, they will send you 1 email a week for your kids and what they have watched. Have you seen that one? That is really, really interesting email to keep those little fellas engaged. So your kids have been watching this and that, and it's this type of content. That's lovely. And then, hey, another email. We have new titles for you, Tom. So because you watch this and that, you might be interested in all of these other titles. Okay, on top of that, you get notifications in your cell phone. Yeah, so you get notifications in your cell phone, your mobile. And how many of those a week? Well, that really varies. But now the thing is, you get this standardized one-fits-all notifications from some streaming services, which is just discover what's new in your streaming app. And that is kind of lame. Some streaming services still do that. And then you have others that is like really personalized. So Tom, you stopped watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine in this episode. Hey, just come on and watch the next one. That is like extremely personalized. So that is the type of thing where we think that, it's like how many notifications can I get? How many newsletters? Well, there's a limit where you'll be like, I'm fed up with this. I'll just turn off these notifications. But they will keep on trying, and that is where I think you get content discovery aggregators as a need, definitely. But then you also get like for each streaming service, you have to be like very good at doing those personalized recommendations to keep on coming to your own content, because there is too much content out there. So keep them engaged with a very personalized experience.
Yeah, I've noticed, I agree. I mean, I find myself wanting someone to sort of tell me what to watch these days, and I find myself watching what they're telling me, because I don't want to spend 2 hours kind of like sitting there, and I don't have 2 hours to do. But the email thing is very interesting. Just as a personal note, I used to get so many emails. Now I get 5 times that, but I was so much more frustrated back then. Now I just don't care. And someone said something very interesting thing. It's like, just don't read them. And I was like, yeah, okay, I take
But
that.
you do know that every single day you will probably spend like a minute to 2 minutes deleting emails?
Deleting emails, yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
I would like those 2 minutes back, by the way.
Berkin, what do you think? Are we in overload, and are we going to continue to go to overload? And
Well,
is that the way the footprint grows, or
I
what do you think?
I mean, we've been talking about search and discovery for how many years? I don't know, since Netflix started, right? Everybody said that they had this genius idea that theirs would be the best recommendation engine. Personally, it hasn't worked for me. I don't know for you guys, but I still sit down and browse like all of us, 45 minutes trying to find something to watch, then I'm sleepy and I go to bed. And this is because there's so much fragmentation in the market. There's like so many apps coming up, so many content coming up. So to be honest, I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's gonna keep on growing. It's gonna be harder every day. And somebody that cracks it will probably make it. But as a household, kids, for example, they have their favorite place to go, right? My kids, they don't even watch Disney. It's just Netflix and nothing else. We have, obviously, like everyone else, all of those streaming platforms. But kids, they're stuck. With us, with adults, we want more choice. But then again, we don't know what to choose. So it's tough. I don't know. To be honest, we've been thinking as a company, we integrated something into our SVOD service as a lean back experience rather than just, so it just plays according to your mood, just like Spotify.
Yeah.
It helps, but nothing crazy. It's people still want to, actually that's kind of maybe the experience that we're used to now, that search is part of the fun.
Oh, interesting. So it's become a game almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
Like it's like scrolling through Facebook or social media. So, because Netflix has it, right? Just watch something, but I rarely use it, and I still can't find anything to watch. So, yeah.
All right, so, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to ask the kind of like the burning question of everyone of, so Matt, what's
Taurus. No.
long walks on the beach? Jason, we're going to get psychoanalytical now and talk about our feelings. What's next? What do you want to see next? What do you feel like needs to happen? And I'll just give you we went from television to cable to streaming, satellite streaming, here we are. We're in this gluttonous place of good content, bad content, content that's good, content that's bad, everything. What do you think is going to be 5 years from now? Like, what is it going to look like? What do you think?
God, 5 years from now, I mean, I'm usually bad in predicting what's going to happen tomorrow, but look, I think I'm going to...
That's why I asked you, because...
No, but I feel like,
long ways
look, I
away.
think one interesting trend in the business right now on these free streaming services and VOD, all these platforms are starting original content plays. And Samsung just hired their head of original content, and Roku hired this guy David Eilenberg, who's been in it forever, and I hear about others the platforms doing this. So I think they're going to try to become more self-sufficient and rely on, and they're out there acquiring content on their own now too, so it's making tougher to pitch them VOD or channels or whatever you want to do, because they're like, we could just keep all the money if we're doing it ourselves. We don't have to give up 50% to our partners.
Let me ask you a question, though. It's a very interesting point that everyone is hiring, folks to take on original content, but yet we just heard the other day that Snap laid off their entire original content group. So why are some going forward and some coming back? What's the...
Yeah, because, I guess that happens a lot too. I mean, you see that cycle too. They're like, oh, okay, never mind, it didn't work for us. So I don't know enough about how Snap went about it to why they failed, right? So I couldn't tell, but I've seen that 1,000 times too. I mean, I was in the linear business. I ran, TV Guide Network and Reels Channel, and it was a Fox News. And I've seen it where we're going to go gung-ho into this and spend all our money original, and then it's like, holy cow, we could just buy movies instead, and let's do that. But sometimes, you look at a lot of channels, and that strategy works. And I think you raised a great point, Michelle, that's what's going to happen, I think, in in this industry too. Some of the platforms, they'll have success in the original.
Yeah.
They'll do it right. They'll have a great strategy. And others will say, what the hell did we just do with $50 million and we didn't get one more viewer? So
Yeah.
you're going to see that happen with Snap and, you know, a dropout, and you'll see others succeed.
Okay. Jason, what's next? 5 years from now, we're going to be here in 5 years. We're all going to be a little grayer, you know. Our
if you
lives
think-
will be different, but, you know, you and I are still going to be here. You know that.
That's true. We probably still will be. I'm aspiring to be Marty. You know, I think there are 3 areas where we can differentiate, right? Business model, consumer experience, and content. And, you know, I do like, again, I'm really behind this natural language processing idea in terms of differentiating on consumer experience. But, you know, looking at the maturity model 5 years from now, I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation because, to your point about Snap, it's a venture capital risk model if you're going to get in the original content game. But it is a way to highly differentiate if you can produce and maintain culturally significant content. And so some players will have the fortitude to do that and the success to do that, and others won't. You know, in the venture capital business, if they get 2 out of 10, they've done well. And so I think we're going to see consolidation. I think we're going to see players that are thinking around things like net present total lifetime value of a customer winning. Because you can't spend, like, it doesn't matter, for example, if Lord of the Rings is on a unit basis profitable for Amazon. Doesn't matter. What matters is, did they drive customers to take up their overall service, and did they retain customers on their overall service? And so the unit economics are entirely different, right? But if you're just a producer who's licensing or wholesaling, or, you know, if you're a standalone channel that doesn't have this entire ecosystem like an Apple and Amazon or Microsoft or whoever, your economics are totally different. So my prediction is 5 years from now, lots of consolidation, the biggest guys and girls get bigger, and natural language processing is prevalent.
Yeah. The NLP thing is very interesting. I'm noticing it. Like, it almost happens around you, and you're not even, you have that inkling like, wait a second, did I just, and then you realize what's happening there. People think they're just stealing your information, but there is something behind it. So, Tom, what do you think? 5 years.
So, unfortunately, I agree. So I think there will be continuous consolidation, M&A, which we hate because, you know, Warner and HBO were 2 separate clients, now they're just one. Then plus Discovery, so 3 just one. And eventually they will merge with Netflix and Amazon, and we will just end up with just one client. So that's the worst scenario for us. But I do feel like, you know, there will continue to be mergers, acquisitions. In fact, we have a lot of the biggest clients of ours asking us, like, you know, keep tabs on the smaller streaming services, local streaming services with good localized libraries, with local contents, just, you know, to see who they're going to buy next. Mm-hmm. So whenever they ask us that, it's like, damn it, it's going to happen again. Yeah. So, you know, so we are headed in that direction. So that is one thing, you know, 5 years from now, we will continue to see that happening. And then also more on the production and content side of things, you know, we love it when we see things like Squid Games and, you know, Elite, you know, the content from Spain, from Korea, from, you know, other places, non-traditional, non-Hollywood productions, conquer the world and have everywhere in the world, you know, people are talking about those titles. Everyone loves that. You know, everyone loves like a success story of something that was unlikely, but it happened. So I do expect to see more of that, because as long as more premium productions are being done everywhere in the world in the effort to localize those libraries, then I think that will also be happening more and more often, which we love, because, you know, it's like a diversity and not, you know, just stop looking at the same type of things and the same actors and the same topics over and over again. So I do like to think about 5 years from now, we will continue to see that happening. And I think it's good. I mean, we love it when that happens. And lastly, you know, 5 years from now, thinking about AVOD and FAST, in particular when we think of countries where there is not enough money to subscribe to every streaming service in the world, and there is a huge need for AVOD and FAST to succeed, that, we know that that will be a huge trend globally as long as the infrastructure costs continue to the costs continue to go lower. Yeah.
All right.
Berkin, come on.
Everything's taken, right? But I totally agree. Consultation is bound to happen. Fast is going to be global. Yeah. And I was thinking yesterday, what if 5 years from now, Netflix and Disney has failed on the ad adventure? What happens to everyone on the ad space? What happens to the ad dollars? Do they go back? Where do they go? So that's probably not going to happen, but what if it does? So that's something to think about as well.
Well, it's interesting where things really do go full circle, because the ad industry was suffering, what was it, Jason, 7 or 8, 9 years ago, because, TV ads. Remember, it was like big TV ads. I'm like, we're not buying TV ads anymore. We've got this thing called the internet, and we can, do these small buys, and we can target people, and we're not spending millions and millions of dollars, and everyone was freaking out.
And then legislation caught up.
And now in the fast world, my brother, who works for a small company but well known, he's like, this thing called fast, I love it. He's like, I'm buying television. It's like, I would never have bought television. I can buy television now. And the fact he sees it as television is fantastic. So I think it's just this full circle approach. But I love what you said about original content, and then Tom talking about that globalization of it. And it's true. Like when Squid Games came out, everyone was just they were fascinated. Like, look at this, and everyone's watching it, and everyone's talking about it. So I do hope we see more of that.
And one more very quick trend.
Yeah.
5 years from now,
Yeah.
sports are going to be.
Oh,
It's Thursday night football's on Amazon.
Yeah.
5 years from now,
Yeah.
all the major sports will have exclusive. This is a big differentiator for the
sports
subscription.
you're absolutely right. And not only just major sports, but minor sports and sports that are coming into play that people are not familiar with. So I want to thank my panel here. I think they did an amazing job. They really went deep. And thank you, Jason, for making us get into the therapy chair and talk about our feelings. So thank you, everyone.
Our next presentation is presented by Whirl, entitled Fast versus Cable.